Hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Submitted for Your Approval, the weekly card review show for Collective, the community-created card game where you make the cards, and I occasionally forget which cue is the finger guns cue. I'm joined today by my faithful co-host, Grief.
And you nearly forgot my name as well.
Yeah, I ain't feeling so hot today, guys. And my well-illuminated co-host, Empty Folder, here in a different room of the house.
Hello, everyone.
Very good. And joining us today, we also have everyone's favorite guest, because I just keep inviting him on as guest, and he might as well be panelist 4 at this point, WujekMarian.
Hi! You say that every time. Just make me panelist 4.
I wanted to jump
Make it official.
What?
Make it official. Make me panelist 4.
No.
You keep saying that every time.
Maybe. I don't know. Y'all DM
Make me feel important.
Message me in either, I probably won't be on during the premiere, but message in Discord general and we'll talk about it. Tell me what you guys think. I want to know what my audience thinks. Let's jump straight into it with the accepted submissions. So these are cards that are already in the game and you can add them to your decks if you like them. Avatar of the Eternal is a 5-drop mind exclusive 4/6 elemental bird from Mirage. With flying, and when this attacks, deal 1 damage to all enemies. An active, pay 10 mana, transform this into Neptha of the Eternal. So this was my pick this week for accepted. I absolutely love how this can be a soft reprint that is still incredibly flavorful. Kind of gives like a third aspect to the whole little cycle that it was always doing, and gives people means to play with an old card in a new way. So I really like the concept and wish people would start exploring this idea more. And so that's why I wanted to draw attention to it. Grief, what do you think of this card?
Let's get an avatar cycle in where every avatar turns into the legendary counterpart. That would be cool. But yeah, I love Anivia. I mean, Avatar of the Eternal, because technically it's a pretty good mid-range tool that can harass the board, kill aggro decks in terms of having just 1 HP, and if the game goes long enough, or you can be able to ramp hard into it, you can turn it into Neptha, which just gives you a repeatable board wipe. Overall, very cool concept.
Yeah. So I think you're kind of with me in that you really want to see more designs like this.
Why this card is exclusive?
I do not know.
To put it simply, 2 reasons. One, this is one of the designs that VM Nunes made specifically for Mind, because Mind right now is kind of a struggling affinity. It needs some toys to play around with, and it was meant to just like be a specifically Mind card, a reason for you to play exactly Mind.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, you can probably play Elemental Tribal and some other affinities, right, or Bird Tribal, whatever. And second reason, fuck KM. Because KM can't put this out on turn 4.
I know. The thing is, like, the thing for me is like, besides the KM reason, I can see the it's a tool for Mind. Regarding the KM reason, I really don't care if KM gets good tools or not.
Well, this would be a very good tool for KM, let's be honest. Yeah. Especially since in KM in particular, giving this deadly is a lot easier.
That's true, but hasn't KM been struggling for months now as well? Because she didn't get really good tools.
Not really.
Certainly, I mean, I haven't seen any of her decks on the leaderboard since rotation.
Well, we can give KM other tools, just not this.
I honestly think O Dragon Control is pretty close, but it's a very hard deck to optimize.
Yeah, I want people to be encouraged to run a Radiated Bite if they want to get this thing deadly. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, the problem I have with this is that I think it's kind of too slow outside of KM. I think KM is like the really only place that you can play this and justify it. I think it's just too slow if you can't drop it on turn 4 and then do deadly shenanigans, which is a lot harder to do in mine. I guess you have a tune, so maybe, but it seems a bit janky.
You actually have 2 different ways to ramp into this in mine.
What's the other one?
Is a tune, and the other one is Way of the World, which I believe is 3 mana do 3 damage, both players gain a mana crystal.
Oh, that's true.
I don't remember what the exact wording on the card is.
Doesn't say mana crystal because it's a Hearthstone thing.
Anything. Okay,
But
back
yeah,
to
I
whatever.
really like the design on this card. This is a great way of doing a reprint for Nifit.
Yeah. So guys, yeah, like if you do more stuff like this, I would love to see it, and it seems like the rest of my panelists would as well. Wujek, you don't get a turn because you already took a turn after Grief.
Sad.
Um,
God, the token on Neptune Slumber makes me mauled to this day.
why?
Text crunch making that all the text go off the border.
I say. Defect Surveillance is a 2-drop mine 0/2 robot placed from Ada with can't attack and ward, and when you draw a robot, give it +2 attack. So I think this is really cute. This is like building up the whole blue robots that we've been seeing built up, see little pieces, bits and bobs here. One other thing I think people would probably maybe enjoy doing with this is maybe like running some shuffle draw shenanigans and just more hand manipulation stuff, where you can like redraw cards you've already drawn or do some shenanigans like that. So I think this is really cute, really amusing. Grief, what do you think of this?
Cool card. Would really love if it actually counts creating cards in hand.
Yeah.
So
Like when a
basically,
robot enters your hand,
so,
that would have been cool.
when you add a robot to your hand, give it +2 attack, because at that point prototypes will be included.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I kind of like that it makes you kind of like stretch your thoughts on that. Run a door or something.
The thing is, like, at that point, because of the draw, it's kind of neutered for most of the ADIF archetypes.
Yeah.
So in that case, I personally would love that update, since it's a cool card. But aren't you just wasting basically 2 mana slot for this kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Well, it does have decent protection. It's got wards. That's pretty sticky. Empty, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I agree with Grief. I think this current version is just not very good. That draw clause like really kills it. It's just so hard to like get decent value off of that in robots. Like so much of the deck is built around prototypes.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd have the update if it came along, and I think you guys would as well. So maybe if someone's interested in putting in an update on a week where updates are slow, think about that. Wujek, what do you think of this?
Yeah, pretty much same thing. If this hit prototypes, maybe. You did mention the interaction with door, but let's be honest, a 2-card combo
Yeah.
for 3 mana at minimum to give your hand maybe +2 attack if this doesn't get removed is not exactly stellar.
Yeah. Okie doke. Well, people don't have much to say about this. So moving right along to the Vitality Crystal is a 1-drop Spirit 0/2 crystal from Xandar with Splash. If the Splash card was a unit, give it +2 HP, and this takes 1 damage. I think we did talk about this one last week, Grief, but
Yep.
Empty wasn't here and Empty picked it, so Empty gets to talk about it.
Yeah, this is like sort of interesting. I've been seeing these crystals that Magneter has been making. And I think it's good to get some more splash cards into the game. Obviously, like not just for KM, but it's always nice to see like a few like random decks that run off affinity cards, since it's a seldom utilized mechanic, especially now with the game as fast as it is. I think these designs are pretty interesting to get like a bit of value. And then it is kind of cool that like these crystals will combo off each other. Like if you play the other ones, which I don't think are in, but if you did, this one boosts them up so you get more uses out of them. I think it's an interesting cycle.
Yeah. Wujek, what do you think of this?
It's a cute card, but the main problem I have with it is I just find it really hard to actually justify dedicating a slot in my deck to this card and this sort of effect.
I can see that.
This feels like this is like the epitome of if this was a token created by another card, it would probably be like pretty good. And it would be just decent value. But as a card in itself, do I want to dedicate a deck slot to this sort of effect?
Yeah, I was gonna say that this hoses my my personal favorite deck, which is Spike's one cost thing for Black Rift, randomly generating it. But I also realized that like it doesn't have can attack, so I can actually still use it. I just gotta find one of the many ways that deck has to play around and maybe give some buffs. Well, my version of the deck. And Grief, we already talked about this. You want to just move along?
Yeah, as I said, I didn't really know how the new dot would interact with it, if the trigger goes off before or afterwards. Outside of that, maybe with, because you said like interactions for the crystals and synergies with it, maybe if the entire crystal archetype at least gets a little bit more explored with more options, then we could probably go back to this and see, okay, how the entire package looks like. Because at the current point, it's not uninspiring, but it's very much not very much doesn't really have a reason to be voted in. To vote in more options to it.
But just to answer your question about that, if it works the same way as the current passive does, then it would work after this ability triggers. It would check health.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would,
Because that's how the current passive works. I mean, specifically on Bip and Bob. I don't know like if it would work the same as Bip and Bob though. It's weird. I would assume it would because it's still a triggered ability. But right now, how Bip and Bob works is if you play a 3 health unit and it instantly gets a +1/+1 upon entering play, it's a 4 health unit, you get 1 XP.
okay. So in that case, it could actually work with the climbing. Okay.
The Arcane Familiar is a 2-drop mind 2/2 elemental arcanist. With summon, the next action you play has rebound. Oh boy, this one got in. First of all, I've wanted to see this General Cat art in the game for so long. I think I've designed for it twice. I've seen so many different designs for this thing passed around. Super excited to see it in, and we get the Young Witch effect onto a new card, and a cheap card at that. So this could be a really great tool for Vrick or just any, maybe like a token-oriented Ashgurdy type thing. There's a lot of different places you could do, things you could do with this. Wujek, what do you think of this?
Definitely a very strong card. I mean, just that if like giving your next action, this would be good if it like just gave it to your next action this turn. It would probably still be played. Just being next action in general, very strong effect. Reminds me of that elemental, the 2-mana 1/3 elemental that gives a card in your hand, create an ephemeral copy of it for being played. I find it kind of funny how compared to the witch, this really does just go -3 in mana cost, for the same effect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the witch has flying,
which makes sense
and a better
considering
stat
that
line.
let's be honest, the witch is utter garbage by today's standards.
Yeah. And
Just
so, yeah,
it's
I
really
think
telling
this is
about
more,
the advancement in power level of the game.
Yeah, I think this is a really good aggro, or you could use it in aggressive decks or less aggressive decks. I mean, this is really what the witch kind of should have been, I think, in my eye.
The thing is, like,
Personally,
which originally was also very controversial. As when it was good, it was really good, but for the most part, you really needed to justify the 5 mana.
Also, by the way, you really like this in Vrick because it opens up some very interesting play patterns. For example, turn 1 quest attune, play this on a 1-cost action that you have in hand to guarantee turn 2 proc as well.
Ooh.
Or just play this on turn 2 to guarantee that you're getting the proc turn 3.
Probably
Probably gonna be a very cute Vrick card. Probably a free off staple in that deck.
Grief, you have any more thoughts on this?
No.
I actually just
Also,
looked at this and I got mad. This needs a
Also,
cosmetic,
actually-
guys. It's not a cat.
Oh, shushies. Also, by the way, Empty.
Yeah.
Remember how you mentioned that Avatar is not good unless it comes out on turn 4? If you have a singular attune in hand and Avatar, this allows Avatar to come out on turn 3.
Yep.
Do you have any more thoughts on this?
No, you just run this in every mind deck that runs a decent amount of actions. Like, it's just really, really good action support.
Somebody cosmetic this into a cat, please. It bugs me. It bugs me so bad. And you know, cats. Okay, so we are jumping into the active submissions. So these cards are not in the game yet, but what you can do is you could vote them into the game using the power of democracy. The Burden of Knowledge is a 3-drop neutral curse from nowhere in particular with fast, and for each unit in play, set its HP to 1 and give it Entomb, draw a card. I know this was a spicy design for the couple of us who got to see it in labs. I know that this art is absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad that, I mean, Lyman, who made it, immediately made it his profile picture. I think this design is really, really cool and interesting against, so it has a really good matchup against Ward, because you could use it as like a mass Ward pop, and then you can still gain the benefit without them gaining it. Or maybe it's not the best matchup, but I don't know, it's cool. And then if you're running like big aggro, you can make sure that your aggro engine will not run out of gas. So really cool, really creative. I think I'd be excited to run this card. What was it sitting at? It was sitting at like 3. So people, this is controversial. Grief, are you good to? Okay. Grief is busy still, I think, or you're muted. Okay.
Oh no, sorry, my grandma was here, so we had to discuss it. I love this card, but as word pop, it's definitely utter garbage, considering the fact that it would always hit your own units at that point. And your opponent is pretty much protected from the set to 1.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, okay, sure, you don't get a benefit of basically reducing their HP, and they don't get a benefit of the drawing effect. But overall, even if your board gets cleared, you have to still kind of utilize the cards that you draw off of it, and if you cannot, then yeah, it's basically just one-sided against you. Or I really like this kind of design. I'm also a personal fan of stuff like humility in Magic, but this is like soft humility. Thing is, if you can banish a board, neither player, or if you can actually manage to banish targets / bounce them, so yeah, your opponent doesn't really get a benefit of the draw effect. Still doesn't really matter at that point how you actually lower their HP. So overall, cool design, but in practicality, how good is it actually to reduce the HP of certain targets or the entire board of your opponent, while also netting them every time a ship dies on their side a card?
Yeah. MD, what do you think of this?
Yeah, this is a really interesting effect. Like, this can be super strong if you have the right board state. Like, you have a big swarm and your opponent, maybe they just played like some big 5-drop or something. And especially if you have like pings like that motorcycle, this is really good with, because that also nets you a card. And it's fast, so your opponent can interact with it. However, there's also going to be situations where like maybe your opponent's playing Swarm or you're behind on board a little bit, where like this is just a complete dead card.
Yeah, so you really have weird matchups, definitely.
Yeah, you really have to have a deck that's created in such a way that like you're going to have control of the board and have like a big swarm of like 1-2 health units, where this isn't going to disadvantage you that much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what do you think of this?
Probably good in specifically token aggro decks, where 1, this gets you CA with little to no downside, since most of your units are probably already going to be at 1 to 2 health. And 2, it allows your units to trade into your opponent's units, which is the more important part.
Yeah.
Thing is, again, kind of how Empty mentioned, this is very matchup dependent. A lot of decks right now like to go wide, I think, and giving those decks extra CA. To be fair, not that impactful, considering that CA is something that in collective, at least in my opinion, has mattered very little for a long time now, just how easy it is to generate. But still.
Yeah.
An interesting way to use this also, by the way, and what this card will probably be used for if it ever does actually find a use. is it's gonna be a very good mill tool because in combination with any 1 damage AoE, this is destroy an opponent's board and make them draw absolute crap load of cards.
Yeah. Definitely a cool card with lots of interesting flexible uses. The Cardshot Rookie is a 2-drop mine 3/2 psychic aberration from Verstalt. With summon, discount a card in enemy hand to 1 and deal damage to a unit equal to the amount discounted. So the big reason I wanted to talk about this card, and this is like, honestly, the card could be of vanilla and I'd still have picked this card, because that art is amazing and I want people to take a hint. Like, if we started playing around and doing unique and cool things like this, just imagine how like cool it would be. Like, I love this. I absolutely love the art for this card. The effect, however, is also very interesting. It's kind of tricky to use, but it could easily synergize with a lot of effects to come, you know, later down the line in Verstalt. And I just find it really, really exciting. So Empty, you made this card. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so this is sort of like a big payoff for like a lot of what you're doing. Like this can be 2 mana, 3/2, like deals 7 damage to something and get additional value. Or it can be like completely awful and unplayable, and it just sits in your hand while your opponent keeps 1 mana up and you just can't use it on anything. It's going to be like a really like matchup and skill dependent card. Because a lot of the time, like if your opponent is like playing very defensively and keeping 1 mana up all the time, you just can't go for this a lot of the time. And it's especially tricky right now because a lot of the other payoff cards like Trading Addict didn't get in. So it's difficult to make like full advantage of that sort of effect. But maybe like you could play some shuffle effects or something. And then when your opponent taps out, you can play this and then like shuffle the 1-cost card in their deck so they don't get to use it. But like this is really deck building dependent because you're not going to want to just play this on its own most of the time because you are giving your opponent a lot of value in order to remove something.
Yeah, like I mean, even if it's just 1 or 2, I don't think it's maybe the worst thing in the world. You do have to be very careful when you play it, obviously. But just using it as sort of like an augmented like pan-cat type thing, not maybe the worst use in the world. The only thing that like bugs me is, yeah, we don't have currently stuff like Trading Addict, which would make this amazing, really, really fun to play with as kind of shenanigans. And so my thought is, I'm just here to tell the audience, like, come on, go think about it. This could be fun. Let's strategize. Let's play some mind games. Wujek, what do you think of this?
Please be nice.
What is it?
He said be nice.
Yeah, you can be tough on my cards. I don't mind.
Yeah, before the show, I wanted to actually, I joked about how I finally get to talk to Empty about how I love his realm. I love the aesthetic, but so many of the cards in that realm are just so horribly bad. And I think this is one of those cards in the current card pool. This is absolute and utter garbage, and you never run this.
Yeah.
This is completely unplayable. It's literally 2 mana, grief yourself, I would even say.
Wujek, it's sitting at 10. So that means people might be interested in voting in combo pieces for this thing.
That being said, if support for it gets in, could be kinda cute. Probably still way too clunky. Not gonna lie. It's not that hard to just float 1 mana unless you're playing some aggro deck. Maybe then you're gonna be actually.
I mean, there's a lot of aggro right now.
What you do is you Cloud Frog.
I mean, sure, but like I feel like if you know your opponent is playing this card, it's not that hard to just float 1 mana. If this had fast,
that's true.
Maybe. Right now, though, I honestly do think it's way
it could
too
maybe
clunky.
use fast.
Just.
What we need is
really
more ways to increase the cost of doubloons. And then this would have at least 1 more good matchup. Grief, what do you think of this?
This card is bad. I don't know why people are voting for it. Because it's utter nonsense. Nothing against your designs, Empty, but This has so many bad matchups. Control, yeah, sure. You're basically putting a control piece for them or removal stuff at 1 mana. I don't care. Oh, I eat 5 damage. Who knows? Here, eat a board wipe. Because that's the card you discounted to burn me. All my other cards cost like 2 mana, 3 mana. Thanks to your down and up skipping, whatever, who cares? So maximum of damage that you can basically deal with it. In the current card pool would be like, what? 9 damage when you're lucky playing combo decks, which, yeah, stuff like Garb. Now you're still facing a deck that still shits out a lot of cards with discount effects, by the way, against aggro. How much damage are you pinging against 1 to 3 mana units with a 2 mana card that even gives them an upside to play more aggro tools? This card A needs fast, and B needs a card that basically increases the cost to something to 20 or stuff like that. That's the problem. Most of these aberrations from the start, the discount cards don't have the right counterpart to them, and the increase cards are way too tame to actually be useful.
Oh, I know what this needs. We need like an enemy triplication. That would make this work.
Basically, you need an enemy triplication. No, the thing is that you're joking around, but not, no, to actually make this archetype work, you need something like that in the game.
Yeah.
But at that point, I don't know if people want to have these kind of hard hand-spun cards in the game. Looking back at Otherworld Oracle, this card is with the next legacy ban list is going to 1 because of how controversial it is.
Okay, moving on.
Also, I just want to say, talk about like shuffle effects that maybe would like shuffle this card into the deck or discard it, whatever. Those effects are usually valued at what? 3 mana? So you would be paying 5 mana to get a 3/2 and maybe remove a dude and spin a dude, which isn't horrible, but as a 2-card combo, probably across 2 different affinities also.
I mean, I'd want to like actually make the hand interaction in mind too, so that you could run them together.
Yeah.
But I mean that it all depends on cards getting in, which like
it needs something like
assuming this one even does. Like there's going to be 2 Versalt cards in the game. It's really hard to make an archetype of that, especially since neither of them are the payoff cards.
Okay. The Bothered Backpacker is a 2-drop mine 2/2 vampire rogue from Tutela with rebound and summon shuffle 4 condemned travelers into your deck. And the condemned travelers are they have 1 cost nominally, but they're 2/2 and vampire rogues with basically the trap effect. When you draw this, play it and draw a card. I thought this was really, really cute. Since I was, with the help of Spike, I mean, you know, mostly Spike's effort, was finally able to get Sandclouds in, I was excited to finally start playing around with the Mind Trap deck. And so I thought this take on it was really cool, really interesting. You get a little 2/2 with a lot of potential value off of it. Also works really well in another deck that's been very well my favorite, which is the 1-cost non-native stuff. So pretty flexible, pretty cool. I really, I mean, this card, I feel like this card is just speaks to me. And it makes sense because it's Spike, and Spike tends to design better versions of the cards I'm always trying to make. Wujek, what do you think of this?
Cute. Yeah, very good way for the token shuffle deck to actually develop a board, which is something that has been severely lacking in both standard and legacy. Though for this to actually be efficient enough, the deck probably needs another card with the Otherworld Cultist? I don't know, the Deepwood Cultist, that's the name, effect of drawing tokens, because right now I believe we have only 1 card that draws a token from your deck in the standard card pool. And the deck needs more consistency.
Dora Molina and Sandcloud.
Oh, sorry. In that
right?
case, it's 2 because no, Sandclaws is just. I believe Sandclaws just draws a generic card, doesn't it? Oh,
No.
no, it does draw a token. Okay, so
It's draw a
Sandclaws,
token.
Dora shuffles and I think just draws 2 cards, right? I don't think Dora draws tokens. And we have the 3-mana 2/3 flyer that draws a token at the end of every
Yeah.
turn. Probably still would like at least one more card with that sort of effect for more of that consistency.
Isn't there a neutral bard that does that for both players? Or is that rotated out?
No, that's rotated out. That's a very old card.
Yeah. So yeah, we
probably a
lost
little
Nick
bit
with the
too
Sandclaw.
inconsistent right now. Very cute. I love this design. It's really cool. Had a card like that in Hearthstone. It was very good, but probably a bit inconsistent right now.
It's sitting at 4. Maybe it'll get in. Maybe it won't. Who knows? Grief, what do you think of this?
Play paying cost or without paying cost?
You just play it. That's how play it works. Is no cost. It's the same text that appears on all the traps. And yes, they're all 0 cost, but it's 0 cost.
Okay, because I remember correctly that we differentiated that somehow, but whatever. If I remember correctly, then that's how but whatever. It's a cute card, whatever. Play it, play reshuffle effects, play token draw, whatever. Cute card. Blue aggro.
MT, what do you think of this?
It's just like a very basic token support effect. It's just like it's not very interesting, but it does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
It helps buffer the archetype.
Yeah. I kind of like it because it does really help out what Tutela is trying to do and what Black Rift is trying to do in a nice little synergistic package. The Sly Sneak is a 1-drop mind 1/3 Faowen rogue from nowhere in particular. With when this damages the opponent, choose a unit that costs 2 or less in your hand to move to play and bounce this. I always find it interesting how we tend to see people are clearly following like MTG spoilers at the same time they're doing this, and including cards that end up referencing in whole or in parts existing things that are going on in the MTG ecosphere. Because this is kind of a ninjutsu type thing, a little different, but a little similar. Grief, what do you think of this?
Now, this is an interesting card design. By the way, I was surprised that Space Turtle is the designer. Nothing against Space Turtle, but that's the kind of design that's very multi-layered, sure. You can use this as an aggro tool where you just basically blink entrance effects or weird stun targets into the board after an attack. Maybe even with the 1 attack matters archetype to get multiple damage procs of it off. To get a trigger more often. Also, you can also give it in Legacy unblockable, so that's also interesting. But this works with card cost reduction because it's not caring about base cost. So anything that is cost reduced to 2 while this thing is on board can be shaded in after combat, or funny enough, during combat as well. Depending on how combat damage or attackers are actually on the board and damage resolves. So that's a cute interaction. So overall, this will be an interesting card moving forward.
MD, what do you think of this?
I don't really have too much to add to it. It's sort of like a neat little aggro tool. You get like a 1/3 body, which is like about as good as you can expect for 1 mana. And then you get a little bit of value when it hits your opponent.
Yeah.
Totally fine card.
Wujek, what do you think of this?
I believe very strong. I mean, it's vanilla with upside. Probably you play this in 1 attack aggro decks. Maybe some combo shenanigans with the 2-cost pirate that makes an allied unit deal 1 damage to the opponent.
Yeah.
I would like it a bit more if instead of it just being a vanilla with upside, it was like a 1/2 with an additional evasion effect. But I honestly think the upside is weak enough where it can get away with just being a vanilla with upside.
Mhm.
Because that is a very hard effect to trigger, actually.
Well, it's only it's not combat damage, so you actually can
Opponent.
perhaps maybe get
mean-
creative. If you run what is it, Doomwalker Assault would technically do it.
Yeah, the card that is no longer in standard.
Well,
That I would
yeah,
definitely
but
do.
I,
Yeah, that's
you
the
know,
thing.
half
In
of the
standard,
panel
there are
plays
very
in Eternal
limited ways to
format,
do
so.
it. Like that's the thing.
Mhm.
In Legacy, you can do it easily.
Yeah. The Flame Cyclone is a 6-drop strength action from nowhere in particular with deal 7 damage to a unit and 1 damage to every unit in play. Cool. Neat. I do think Entropic, I really love seeing you design cards. That art looks really, really similar to a bunch of, or to at least one card that already exists. And I don't know, maybe spin it counterclockwise or something. Besides that, I don't have much to say about this card. Empty, what do you think of it?
I really don't have much to say about this either. It's just like all right damage for strength with like slight board clear upside. Maybe you run it in rage, but honestly, I think it's too slow there. It's a lot of mana.
Wujek, what do you think of this?
Based. You just run this in red control. It's really that simple. At 7 damage, it's pretty much hard removal at that point against a lot of threats. Slight board wipe to go with it. I know I would for sure run it in Dram of Control. Whether or not like strength control would be good with this is a whole other question.
It
Because
also
there are
plays nicely in a rage
many other
design,
things
so
holding
there's
it back,
that.
but
Grief, what do you think?
For me, it's almost there. The thing is, like, this is bad. What was it? Starfall, Shooting Star, Combat,
Yeah.
whatever. The Corset card, which costs 5 and green, deals 3 to a target, 1 to the rest of the opponent's board. This costs 1 more, deals a lot more damage to a single target, but is still just a slight board wipe-ish effect on all units compared to what is the opponent's side. I personally would like this at 5 with the same effect, or at 6 if you up the board damage to 2. At that point, yeah, sure, you're playing a control deck that can board wipe and get rid of a singular target, but it also hampers you from actually going wide with a very insignificant drawback, because we're looking at 6 mana. At this point, you should probably try to stabilize against aggro decks again. So getting a 2 damage board wipe and a 6 mana 7 damage nuke from orbit, then at that point, yeah, okay, that I think is fine. For me, it's just 1 mana too much or 1 damage too little at the board wipe effect.
So maybe needs a little bit of a numbers tweak. I think that's all we really had to say on this. The Infernal Promoter is a 3-drop strength 3/3 demon warrior from Saga with summon, destroy an allied unit, and put a random unit from your deck that shares a tribe and costs 1 more into play. So I really love this. I thought this was super cute. First of all, flavor text, art, really great work from Spike. Reference-wise, obviously referencing Collective History and Martial Promotion, but with an additional twist, because this is actually better than Martial Promotion, because in decks where you have means to trick your ladder with using some creative tribes, or if you're running a tribal deck, maybe you're fine running this just as a way to get the next thing out, fitting nicely maybe into demons, maybe into warriors, or maybe into a 3rd tribe, who cares? Wujek, what do you think of this?
very good card. I mean, it's Martial Promotion. What would you expect? That card was so good at 1 that it got nerfed to 2, and it was still extremely good at 2. Paying 1 extra mana for a 3/3 body and more filtering. Yeah, I will fucking do that. It's also extremely good in Legacy. Legacy Demon Tribal absolutely loves this card because that deck around turn 4 to 5, probably turn 4, usually can just casually cheat out 2 Forlorns into play, making this cost 0 and then just combo off. This is just another combo extender for that deck.
So yeah, really, really cool design. I really think it kind of works in a bunch of different places. And I think it's also got some interesting balance points in it with while not having rebound and all that stuff. Grief, what do you think of this?
Even if you're not going for legacy demons, like holy shit, I love this card. I also am a huge fan of promo, so of course this is a winner for me. If you're running this, if you're running in any this in any kind of tribal-based Baldwin deck that isn't based on demons, you can just basically go into your ladder for everything else and never hit this card, which makes this an extremely good upside. In demons, sure, you can also try to hit level 2s. Too much Master Duels in the last 2 days. 2 mana cost cards, but always run the risk into hitting it. So building something like a Lazabo deck with this thing adjacent into it, you can hit Lazabos as long as they aren't warriors.
Yeah.
And safely promo into a 3 mana unit.
MT, what do you think of this?
I really like this effect. This is like a really neat way to do a functional reprint of Martial Promotion in a way that's like more balanced than actual Martial Promotion. And Oso has that like tribal twist that's going to make it very interesting to like see where this finds a home. And
it's sitting at 6, and I would not be surprised if it does really well this week, given that it's already got so many elements that people are really fond of. So here we'll see. More Entropic Mage cards. The Snowcap Yeti is a 3-drop neutral 3/4 giant monkey from nowhere in particular. With Ambush and Rage, cancel all attacks from units that cost 3 or less. Interesting. Very interesting. I actually don't know how to assess this because you have to be blocking this in like a very specific position. I don't know. All around, this just kind of has me raising an eyebrow. Grief, what do you think of this?
Weird card. Very, very important keyword that is actually missing on it, even though it costs 3, which annoys me, is trick.
Yeah. Could be a good trick design, I agree.
Because currently you want to run it in control deck, but it's way too easily signaled. In the best occasion, this is used as a blocker when you don't have a board, or as small of a board as possible against swarm/aggro decks. So with trick, you could actually sheet into play, have the ambush ability online. Wait a second, would it actually block at that point? Or does it have to actually have extra layers for that?
Trick is after attackers are declared before blockers.
Okay, so it can actually utilize it.
Yeah, it does work.
Okay. So yeah, with the ambush ability, that could actually work. Yeah, it's basically just missing one keyword to actually be extremely good. Or what means extremely good? Useful compared to what it is now.
MT, what do you think of this?
I think it's already like decent as just like a stall card for control decks. I mean, clearly some people think it's good because it's sitting at 0. But like the reason I wanted to talk about this is I think that rage effect is really neat. Like it really makes your opponent think about like where their units are positioned and then like what they're actually going to attack with in order to navigate around this. It's like a stall card with some counterplay attached, which I think is pretty cool.
Wujek, what do you think of this?
I honestly think that right now this is insanely strong, actually. Mostly just because of how early this drops. When you drop this on turn 3, you basically get to fog your opponent's entire board for that turn, just for free, with little to no counterplay.
Mm-hmm.
And get a free 4. Probably a free if they do choose to attack. But this realistically will just kill by itself most units that are gonna be attacking at that point, unless they have flying.
Yeah, I think it has too many stats, maybe. I think that's maybe an issue with it.
Pretty much, yeah. Just dropping the health by 1 is like dropping the health by 1. Maybe then you can you can actually add trick.
Yeah. I think this is actually really, really close, and so it's really, really sad to see this at 1.
I was just more thinking in terms of tempo, like silence, bounce effects and stuff like that would actually get rid of it. So yeah, okay.
I mean, yeah, but the thing is that all of those cost free, and you still get a free 4 on board if they're silence.
True. Yeah. Okay.
Anyone want to guess Stranger's incredibly dumb, nitpicky, selfish complaint about this?
No, let's move on.
Moving on. Mechanized Warden is a 3-drop strength 3/3 demon robot golem from nowhere in particular. With when another ally enters play, deal 1 damage to it, and entrance draw a unit, give it regenerate. This is cute, pretty quirky, pretty interesting. I kind of like the flavor that MZ has been going with these new robots and stuff. I'm just excited to see where these new directions go. Of course, this one's in strength, so it plays neatly with like the whole rage, maybe even herald builds. Wait, whose turn are we on? We are on Empty's turn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is sort of like a cute rage design. I'm kind of like uncertain. I don't know what the rage deck looks like, but like you need to be really committed in order to make this worth running, because like for all your non-rage units, this is just a straight up downside. I don't know like how many there are in standard. Like maybe this is a good card for the archetype. It does give you a bit of value off like the free unit and regenerate. Of course, like you could draw in, if you're like not running all in rage, you could accidentally draw something that's like really bad with this effect, but at least it like negates its own downside sort of if that happens. It's a cute card. I think it might be a bit underpowered, but
yeah,
it's cool.
Wujek, what do you think of this?
Cute, good on rage. Those tribal types really make me think.
Yeah.
Especially why does this robot have abs? But anyways. I would like it more if it specifically drew a unit with rage, but text cringe. Boohoo.
Yeah.
Not much you can do about that. Yeah. No, see, it's actually what it is it's a refrigerator and it has like soda cans stored in there. Those aren't abs. That's my head canon at least.
Are you actually?
But it's a demon. Wouldn't that like be way too hot?
Maybe it's soup.
I think Stranger just tried to reference One Piece and Frankie.
I actually haven't seen One Piece.
What? Because okay, as a reference, Frankie as a cyborg or now as a robot is fueled by Coke. So he actually has his tank or fuel tank behind his abs. So he actually opens up his gut and puts those bottles of Coke inside. That's why I thought you mentioned that. Would also make sense because it's a demon robot golem.
Grief, what do you think of this one?
Good rage card, what else to say? To be honest, I think the regenerate thing is kind of meh because the target that you want to put it on are rage units anyways. And I think the wording can be shifted here and there to actually fit draw a rage unit or unit with rage.
Yeah. Okie dokie then. Card Trick is a 3-drop mind action from Wonderstar Casino with Surmise. And the next time an opponent plays a marked card, force play a card from your deck that costs less than it. Surmise puts a hidden mark on a chosen card in your opponent's hand. You reveal that mark when the card changes zones. I think it would be really, really funny if this got in before any surmise. Or is the one versatile card that's already in a surmise card?
There's no surmise in the game.
I really,
currently.
really think it would be funny if Empty put all this like work and love into designing a hook word, which is actually an action word. It's not a hook word.
Yeah, it's using the wrong token.
It's using the wrong token.
Yeah.
And then it'd be funny if this showed up before anything from Versalt that used it, because this was designed for Versalt. Effect-wise, I really, really like. I mean, it really, really seems like a pretty straightforward surmise effect, and being able to use this as a very, very tricky, very interesting tutor, excites me. I really like think this is an interesting way to do it. I do think it's. I mean, it's cool having like a one-off kind of surmise and Wonder Star, but I would really like see some more stuff from Versalt use this first. But that's, I mean, that's unimportant in the long run. Wujek, what do you think of this?
This gives me the vibes of that one card where if it would be to get in, it would be very strong, but no one would run it anyways.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe, but like it has the same energy as something like Psychic Split, where it's an extremely strong effect, but kind of difficult to use.
I think like
obviously it's nowhere close to Psychic Split. I mean, Psychic Split is just an insane effect, obviously. But
see, the thing about this
very
one though
different
is like there are so many just hilarious ways to use this, where you just play this, hit their finisher in their hand, and then the card you pull out is just a counter to wherever their finisher is. And I think that just makes this card so fun and so interesting that like I don't know.
The way I see it, it's extremely good against control. Because if you don't have to worry about getting ran over, if you invest into this early game, you're good. You probably just cheat out a ton of mana with this. Against aggro or mid-range, you probably cannot afford a free mana do nothing as easily. But still, you can't just get lucky and they may just play a card that happens to have been the one you surmise, and now you get your value back, and you get to choose what you get. I feel like I would like it a lot more if it pulled a random card from your deck, but that of this like the same cost, but like that would probably be even more clunky. So it's weird.
Yeah, I agree. Grief, what do you
Maybe
think?
not. It's a very weird balance spot. I feel like right now it's a bit too strong, but man, it's close.
I think it's about right from a balance perspective. I think people are just scared. Grief, what do you think of this?
My only question is, does it care about any kind of marked card?
Any kind of marked card, which actually makes it bombos with other surmise cards, which is kind of the issue.
No. The thing is, like, I don't care if surmised works. It's more like
the other marked cards would also count.
Okay, because the surmise part is for my understanding of the card completely irrelevant, at least for me. The marking can be done otherwise, anyways. If this counts any kind of marked card, then yes, this is very good support for a marked card matters deck. Surmise is a quirky extra mechanic to basically skim on card text and just give marked another layer that is kind of unnecessary. Is in this case just very good. To be honest, yeah, it's 3. This card sounds kind of strong here and there, but it's very matchup dependent as well. Like if you're playing a deck that plays off of marking, then yeah, at 3 or 2, you want to play this kind of card. If it's just a random inclusion in some kind of recursive engine where you say, okay, I play this as a pseudo counter or a way to establish a board against a specific card and find my silver bullets, whatever bullshit, yet it's kind of inconsistent and you have to find it first. Overall, this card needs a specific deck built around it, and marked decks aren't really there yet to make it.
See, I actually disagree with you, Grief. I think this is a non-bow with most marked cards. You want to mark a high-value card and have that be the next marked card they play.
The thing is, though, that's a 3-mana do nothing.
Yeah.
And it's very matchup dependent what you just described.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that point, you don't care about what you get.
But if you're
as long
trying
as
to
you
get them
play
to
it.
mark a whole bunch of cards and get them to play a whole bunch of mark cards, then you might have to be in a
No.
position where you're like, oh, I have to mark this one cost thing.
Again, stranger.
Yeah.
At that point, you don't care what you're
Yeah.
getting because you always get stuff out of it. You always plus. So at that point, it's very inconsequential of the matchup if you play this card.
Yeah. MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah. I honestly, like, when I was coming up with Surmise, I didn't think anyone else would actually make a card with it. So this is like a very interesting like use of the keyword too. Yeah, like it doesn't synergize with Verstolf at all, but like that's completely fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
This is just a really neat effect. And it like sort of takes advantage of the exact type of mind games that I wanted to do with Surmise. And I love it for that.
Yeah. It's not doing too hot, but I mean, it's not the kind of thing that is distasteful to people like the SFYA panelists. So find people who aren't us and ask for their opinions. Valentina of Hearts is a 6-drop mine 5/8 Sweet Arcanist from Zukros. With Summon, shuffle the Queen's Command into your deck and choose a candy to create. At the end of turn, you can discard a candy to shuffle a Royal Gift into the enemy deck and entomb, draw Queen's Command. The Queen's Command is if your opponent draws a trap, if they can't deal 2 damage to them, repeat this 2 more times. The Royal Gift is a trap with take 4 damage, and when drawn, play this and draw a card. A lot of moving parts here, a lot of interesting stuff, and a legend for Zukros, so that's always exciting. This gives you the Queen's Command, and I don't really see what the candies are doing here. I feel like this design's kind of spread a little thin. At the end of turn, you can discard a candy to shuffle another Royal Gift, or shuffle a Royal Gift. So you actually need several candies to discard to the other effect in order to get the Royal Gifts. This is, I mean, it's an interesting engine, but it just seems slow and clunky. I want to like this card so much, but it just, I don't know, it makes me really hesitant. I got the turns way messed up for the last 3 picks. Technically, it's supposed to be Wujek's go, so I'll have Wujek speak first.
So maybe first let's say what I like about this card. I really like the idea of a card shuffling a token into your deck and then having an entomb to draw that token. That's cool. I really like the idea of discarding a card to shuffle a trap into the opponent's deck. That's a cool effect, sure. I really like how this is actually a 6-drop mind unit that, true, a bit slow, but still is really strong. What I don't like is that all of that just leads to burn, which is, to me, extremely unsatisfying and uninteresting.
Yeah, they're just bombs on steroids, I guess is.
Like, I don't know. As probably a lot of people know, I really like Mind as an affinity. I play a lot of Rictic decks. I just kind of hate how every Mind deck out there ultimately boils down to, let's see if you can burn down the opponent, and in what ways you can burn them down. To be fair, that's not the case right now with Lateral Humans actually being something different, but God, if this just did literally anything other than burn, I would like it so much more.
I also do think, like, especially because we're sitting here in a legendary, like, just let me discard any number of candies. If I'm gonna be able to discard 3, let me discard 3 and speed this thing up. And the other thing is, it's the same problem that other MZ, I think also legendary design was, where it's just, there's a lot of moving parts, and all the moving parts, I mean, they do feed into each other, but it's just I don't know, sort of a headache to read. Grief, what do you think of this?
Cute card. Absolutely adorable. I love the not recursive engine, the repeatable engine of discard a candy, shuffle, gift in, try to draw into your Queen's Command, whatever. Problem is, as Wujek rightfully pointed out, it's just another flavor of burn, pun not intended. When Astras created card just recently in voice chat, I basically also said that it's cool. I'm just very uninterested in another burn, another board wipe, another card draw card. I just want people to do something else for a fucking instance. Oh, it's a cool card and all, and yes, it's extremely atrociously slow. Whatever. But please, for can you actually do something else about burn, especially with traps?
Yeah, like, I mean, if this just had some other text on it, or if it had a way to speed up its engine, I think it would work really well as traps. And I do see what you guys see about we're getting burned out on burn, seeing all the traps deck do the same thing. MT, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like so on the burn. I just think like this needs a way to like move faster, honestly. Like you were saying, it's like super slow to get set up. And then like you need this thing to die in order to actually like get the Queen's Command reliably. And it has like really beefy stats for some reason. So even if you like want to kill this thing, a lot of the time you just can't. It's just it's just a really weird package altogether.
I mean, it's sitting at 12. I would say it's probably going to get in. I would say at the very least, being able to discard multiple candies to it would go so far in making it speed up to the point where it's playable. As is, it's just clunky and redundant to a lot of other things we have. I do really like the art, and now that I understand it, I mostly like the design, but it's definitely on the more Rube Goldberg side of legendaries.
Oh, so the Mintberry uses the old version for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
It has to do with when all the candies got updated for some reason, Mintberry just didn't.
Mm.
Did the update not get in? That'd be really awkward.
Oh, it did get in.
Oh,
It's just
well,
that it's not in.
Yeah. Let's talk about legendary.
This is collective.
It did get in.
Grief, remind me how I'm supposed to say that first, Matt.
Treu.
Treu, the Blood General, is a 7-drop strength exclusive 5/5 vampire robot from Mortstall with Agile, Life Bond, Overrun, and summon Force Play Treu's Command. For the rest of the game, start a turn, create an ethereal Treu's Command. Treu's Command says choose an allied unit that died this turn to revive. It attacks, then banish it at the end of the turn. I really like this idea of, okay, summon Force Play a card for the rest of the game, create an ethereal copy of it. It's another way of doing the active without active thing. Absolutely really clever execution. I wish so many more cards were able to do stuff like this, because it also synergizes with more decks. Art-wise, amazing. For the actual effect, it does require, of course, that you're running for the rest of the game, start of the turn. Okay, yeah, that doesn't matter. Okay, this does require that you have ways to kill things before combat, so this does require you to be running like probably sack or just, against an opponent running a removal pile. All in all, it's interesting, kind of not my wheelhouse to talk about, so I'm going to let Grief talk about it.
The thing is, like, I don't really play reanimation decks like that. I usually love to dump huge stuff into the graveyard from hand or from deck and then reanimate it. So it's a very strong card. I like it, but I'm very not interested.
MD, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I just feel like this design overlaps with the old how's it? It's Treu.
Mhm.
I think it overlaps with the old Treu too much. They're sort of trying to do like pretty like they sort of fit in the same sort of deck. And I think the old Treu just sort of does its job better. This is more like value focused. And it just comes out very late, and it's very difficult to actually get like enough value out of playing the command every turn to really justify this.
Mhm.
Very reactive.
Wujek, what do you think of this?
Really slow, but cute.
Okay.
Yeah, the main problem with it is just that it comes down on turn 7, which is pretty late. But if we ever get some sort of vampire mid-range deck, I would almost certainly run this.
Hmm. Okay. People didn't have much to say about this one, and we've kind of been going long, so I'm gonna just move straight on. Grafted Celestial is a 1-drop neutral 1/1 Angel Golem Horror from HPL with entrance and entomb, gain +1 EXP. Neat. Empty, what do you think of this?
There's like almost nothing to say about it. You just get some XP. Honestly, I don't really like it. I feel like it's just like a little tribal bomb for like these decks, just to like, oh, you run this in Hawkins, or well, not Hawkins. You run these in the birds in order to get some XP, and then with the new birds, you can get 2 on turn 1. Like it does what it needs to do, but it just is what it is.
Or if I just want to run the fastest 1-drop deck in the West, I can have Ashgirdy's already insane EXP ramp just go way bonkers out of control. Wujek, what do you think of this?
I'm gonna be honest. The only reason I picked this card is because I was looking through the subreddit and I honestly thought all the other options were worse.
I do appreciate, by the way,
this
how...
card.
Oh, okay, you go.
Yeah, this card honestly to me just has 2 main problems. First is balance. It's just really strong for a 1-drop. Gaining 2 EXP and a 1/1 worth of stats, like I would just pay 1 mana to gain 2 EXP flat. That would already be a card that's very runnable. And this having synergy with both flickers and then tomb retriggers, like yeah, that's really stinky. 2, this has absolutely no reason to be neutral in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is definitely a card that could just have an affinity.
Yeah.
And 3, yeah, kind of as Empty mentioned, it really is just a very strong card for select few tribes, and Pihu, you probably just run it in good stuff, held them anyways or whatever.
Yeah, it's sitting at 0, so it's probably not going to get in. Yeah, but yeah, Grief, what do you think about this?
Hello, Wisp 2.0. Basically, this is the general staple that you would plaster on every kind of deck that can actually run it. And it's very hard to not make an argument to run it because it's a neutral 1/1 that gives you 2 XP and test synergies. It's just good that it doesn't have any kind of, what was it? The tribal harmonized effect? Shapeshift. Thank you. Yeah, that's basically the only thing missing on it that would make it worse. Yeah. Why the hell is this neutral? Why the hell is this a 1/1?
I do appreciate how, even though it does have wings, the wings are wilted, so I understand why it doesn't have flying. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really too much to say on this one. I think we all understand kind of why it was sitting at 0, but there's our feedback. I need to stop the share, so. Good week. Well, interesting week. Always an interesting week, but we saw some really cool legendaries, some really fun cards. Glad to have a guest back on. So, Wujek, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Sorry that I couldn't be here. Like I believe a week ago you made the same one.
Yeah, it's fine. I just need to get on top of finding panelists. And of course, thank you as always to my regular panelists who are official, actual regular panelists with titles and everything. Even though Empty, your title is always subject to change.
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe. Remind me why exactly I'm doing this. Keep playing collective. Keep on voting on cards. Bye.
See ya.